Hey everybody, Josh the Retro Regamer here, and I wanted to talk to you about something else that's interesting for the Nintendo Entertainment System. So I've talked to you already about some neat things for the NES. I talked about the Power Glove, and I've gone over a few other things, and I'm going to cover more systems and other hardware and other accessories, but this is a unique thing for the Nintendo system. So some of you may be aware that Famicom games were what was released in Japan. So US, the United States, a lot of other places in the world, like we got the Nintendo Entertainment System, whereas in Japan they got the Famicom, or the Family Computer is basically what it was. So this was very different than our cartridges, as you can see. And some games, like this one, Kid Dracula, actually released in Japan, but never had a North American release, sadly. So, what if you want to play a Famicom game in your Nintendo Entertainment System? How do you do that? With an adapter. But you have to get kind of creative, because there wasn't an official adapter that was released from Nintendo for that. So there are several third parties out there, but if you're like, man, I just really want an official Nintendo adapter, why didn't they do that? Well, they did. And the way that they did that is kind of sneaky. So in certain games, like Hogan's Alley, and basically early 5-screw games, a lot of them had a adapter inside made by Nintendo, and it was basically to be compatible with North American systems. So the way that it worked was basically Nintendo was having trouble keeping up with the demand for the games and for the NES when it first released. So they took boards that they already had for Famicom games, and they basically put them with an adapter into a cartridge. So I've already opened this one up, and I'm going to show you some ways that you can identify it and see if you've maybe got one of these adapter, and also a way that you can go look and see if you can get one for yourself if you don't have one. And I'll show you the way that I typically use it as well, depending on what your setup looks like. So take out the screws in the back there. I've already done that, so I'm going to go ahead and pop this lid off here. So if you see, this is what it looks like inside. So this black piece right here is your sweet adapter that's from Nintendo. So it's screwed in right here, as you can see right on the sides here. The little black holes there are actually screwed into the cartridge, and it perfectly lines up with several holes in the cartridge. And if we pop that out, basically what you see here is this is the actual game. This is the Famicom version of the game of Hogan's Alley. And then you have your adapter here, which goes into basically a blank pin connector here at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that out so you can see it's just got these, it's got less pins here that plug into the bottom of this guy. And then this one, same deal, pull that out, it just was plugged in there. So there's a couple of different ways that you can use this guy to play your games. And if you are like me and you have kind of a front loading the old school NES that looks like a VCR, which was by design, then you're like, okay, well, that's a long distance to travel to get this in there and the adapter piece. Whoop, there we go. And the adapter piece and your game. So the way you can do that is with a Game Genie. So what I do is I will plug this in like this, back into here. Then I will take my Famicom game, and most of them, actually I put this on backwards, most of them will fit actually inside. Now it is a very snug fit. So if you're hesitant, you can, I've seen some people will Dremel these edges a little bit to make it fit a little bit better in there. But if you notice, fits right in there for mine. So several of them, it'll just fit right in there. So, but you want to flip the adapter around so the short end is plugging into the blank pin connector here. So that way the long end of the adapter piece here, so this longer, thin, thicker piece here, can plug right into the Famicom game. Okay, so once you've got it into the game there, next all you got to do, plug that into your Game Genie. So plug that into your Game Genie like so, and now you're ready to go. All you got to do is take it like this, insert it into the system, and you'll be off and running. and you'll be using a Game Genie, but you'll be using the official Nintendo adapter. Now, you don't have to do the Game Genie in the setup. That's mainly if you have a front loader, just to cover all that distance. If you have a top loader, I mean, you could just do it like this, and you can, pop it in there. You can just plug it straight in. You'll have to play around with the direction, because I can't remember. I don't have I have a top loader, but it's buried right now, and I haven't even really used it in years, so I don't know if it works. But basically, you're gonna have to play around. You might have to switch this little connector around depending on which way it plugs in, because it may not play both ways. You might have to have it a specific way. I know for the front loader you have to have it a specific way. If you don't do that, it won't work. So anyway, so finding one of these babies. So there's a couple different ways that you can find it. The best way that I found is to look for one of the early 5-screw games. So Hogan's Alley is a good one. Duck Hunt also had some. Gyromite had some as well. And I believe even Mach Rider and some of the just early Black Label, or they called them the black box releases or whatever for NES. A lot of those that were 5-screw had these adapters in them. Now, not all of them did. A lot of them didn't have it too, but there were a lot that did actually have the adapter in it. So I've had the most luck with Gyromite and Hogan's Alley. One, they're usually pretty cheap. You can get them for anywhere between $3 and $5 usually. Or even get several of them sometimes for like 10 or 12 bucks, and you can just go through them. And that's if you're like looking online, like eBay or something like that. If you have a local game store, you could just ask them and say, hey, do you guys have any of the adapters? Do you have anything like that? They might look at you weird and be like, what are you talking about? And you could share it with them if you want, or you can just go in and look yourself and see if you can find one maybe in your retro game store that has it. And a good way to tell is, so this pin connector here, that actually it sits in here like this. So it's actually what's sticking out of the cart. So like whenever you come up and you're looking at the cartridge, like that's what you're seeing on the bottom there, is that pin connector. So if you look, the pins on the pin connector, I'm going to get really close and give it a second to focus, because this is important. So you see how that little metal tab is to the left of the contact there. So let me point that out too. So see this little tab? I'm going to try to get close enough that it'll focus again here. So these little tabs on the little metal pin tabs there. There we go. Yeah, so like right there. Once it comes into focus again. Come on. There we go. Yeah, so those little pin metal tabs right there, the little side piece that has that, that means if you see that in a 5-screw like this, early black box label, and you see it on the side like that, every time I've seen one of those, it's had the adapter in it. Now, you might see some 3-screw carts that have the pins to the side like that. Those don't have an adapter in it. This is only early 5-screw releases, very early black box title games that even could possibly have it. So like, let me grab another NES game here, and I'll show you. I don't know if I have a way to show you the pins on the other side. Yeah, I don't know which one of those would have it, but basically the pins typically will be kind of in the middle, or that's it. They'll be in the middle or on the side. So if they're in a 5-screw black box title on the side, that's one way. Another way, some people say you can tell by the weight. I find that still really hard, because some of the cartridges, some of the PCBs that are in the cartridges for the Nintendo, some of them were heavier than others. So, if you're holding two and one has it and one doesn't, you can kind of tell, but it is pretty difficult. So, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a foolproof way. The best foolproof way that I found is basically looking for that, looking for those side pins, and going from there, because otherwise, I don't think you're gonna be able to tell without opening it up, And if you open it up, like, I think that's kind of frowned upon. I mean, if you're at a game store, they might open it up for you or something like that, but I don't think you're gonna want to sit there and open them all up, all their copies of Hogan's Alley or Gyromite. And if you're buying from online, you just have to trust whatever the seller says. So anyway, there you go. That's a good way that you can look for and find the official Nintendo adapter for the NES to play Famicom games, especially really good games like Kid Dracula that didn't come out over here. You should also check out this game if you haven't ever played it. It's a lot of fun. So thanks again, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you found one of these before. If you have maybe another trick that I wasn't even aware of, let me know. Like, subscribe. Let me know what you think.